Hey there, everybody. Michael Bolton III here with Kill 2, bringing you the Unreloaded versus Black Legion match. Why don't you tell us a little bit about these setups, Kill 2?
All right, so some definitely interesting kind of new stuff here. Hunter has brought a full ECM team, which is something we haven't seen a ton of so far in the tournament. They have an EOS and a Guardian, and then 4 Rooks, along with looks like 2 Griffins, 2 Maulus, and 2 Daredevils. Kind of the Daredevils there for damage. And before I move on to the other team, actually, an important point of the match is that those Daredevils are at 0 on the beacon with everything from the Black Legion side. Black Legion, on the other hand, 3 Vindicators, a bunch of Frigs, basically. 3 Vindicators and Oniros, and then Ishkers, Enyos, Jag, Ishker, etc. So there's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be really important that the Rooks land jams early on the fight, or the Frig wing for Black Legion is going to tear apart the only Hun-reloaded DPS, or at least a lot of it. And we are underway. Griffin taking damage already. You see some HPs that are low. I think the Oniros was the guy didn't rep his armor because he didn't know, and the Griffin was he didn't warp in time to the arena, so he was penalized.
Yeah, big mistakes from both teams. Having your Oniros in like 10% armor is not exactly what you want to do. We have damage coming in on that Jaguar. ECM across all the Vindicators, the Oniros, and 1 Enyo. But a lot of these Frigs are not jammed out and are going to be brawling, particularly with these Daredevils at 0 on the beacon.
Ooh, this is pretty... this is really intense, actually, right now. That you see this Rook taking damage for Hun. I feel like the match kind of comes down to whether or not that Rook can survive and whether the Daredevil... You see one of the Daredevils went low for a second but got saved. So far, a really amazing job by Hun Logistics, actually.
Yeah. Humor Harold in the Guardian is rocking it out right now, dropping reps wherever they're needed. We have the armor rep drones on the Oniros, CERN Tiamat, slowly bringing back his terrible mistake. Perhaps he will be at full armor by the time he starts taking damage. But we have jams across this whole team and damps on these Vindicators. Now, these jams are shown graphics. They're attempted jams, not necessarily successful jams. But those damps are 100% successful when they're in use. We have damage coming in on these Ishkers. They're just trying to slowly take down all of these Frigs so that they are able to dictate range on these Vindicators and are able to keep their Rooks away from the fight and just slowly apply DPS and knock down the team.
One disadvantage to not having a lot of Frigs on the Hun-reloaded side is that they are short on tackle. So these Vindicators are actually sitting on top of one of the Rooks. The Rook you've seen take some damage, the DLUI Rook. He's got 2 Vindicators sitting right on top of him, and a whole bunch of the other Frigs are several of the other Black Legion Frigs are going after the Frig support for Hun-reloaded, the Mauluses and the Griffins, chasing them around. So, and they can't really do anything about that. They're really counting on jams to be their tackle and their tank. And it's working so far. The Vindis had lock for a second. One of them at least was shooting, but he got jammed again. And there you see his blasters active again. They do have ECCM. All these Vindis do. So right now there's 3 of them staring down this Rook.
Yeah, that Rook is... Oh, here we go. That Rook is down into deep armor. All these Vindicators are just sitting there waiting to be not jammed. And that Rook is really sweating. He's successfully receiving reps. It looks like a jam has landed. Probably only
yeah, the web dropped.
All. Yeah.
So you know the jam landed because he got free, sped up a little bit. It looks like no micro warps though. He's not going super fast. He's not going to be able to really pull range on the Vindis, which would be nice if he could. But at the same time, the Black Legion Oniros is hurting really bad now. They've lost several other Frigs, and the Oniros is low armor. So if that goes down, that's definitely not good for them.
Yeah, as each of these ships drop for Black Legion, they get in worse and worse shape. More jams to be spread across less ships. These are armor tanked Rooks, so they're fit with the absolute maximum amount of jammers you can possibly fit in the Rooks mids. And we've got the EOS giving them, of course, that ECM bonus. So they are very strong jam strength at this point. Oniros at 10% armor. We'll have to see if he drops. Also an Enyo for the team in a little bit of Frig combat, dropping as well.
I hate to see this. This Vindi flown by Ipsimus got a lock, got a web on the Rook. He's actually shooting right now, but the first thing he did when he got a locked was turned his micro warp on and went speeding past the Rook, blowing his tracking for the only amount of time he actually has a lock. But it looks like now 2 of them might have locks, maybe only 1, but they're getting some damage in again.
Yeah, no. I think at this point, though, as this Oniros goes down, there's only going to be 5 ships left on the field, and 3 Rooks can handle 5 ships.
2 have locks right now. You're right, though. Probably it's too late, but there's at least a chance. If they are able to bring this one Rook down, it would definitely go a long way.
This Rook in no armor. Oh, and jams land, well, no. He's just getting reps. Like, he is just on the very precipice of being snap-killed like a small twig.
And that was the Oniros. Black Legion Oniros down. Now just 3 Vindicators and an Enyo. Like we talked about a ton, the less ships there are to jam, the more effective the ECM team gets. So they're in pretty good shape right now. And that Rook is recovering. They probably got another cycle or 2 on those Vindies. He is still webbed, so at least one can still shoot. But at this point, it's definitely not looking good for Black Legion.
Yeah, and as this one Rook is tackled by all these Vindicators, or not necessarily tackled, but is mounted by these Vindicators, the other Rook should be spreading across the arena so that if this one Rook does go down, the Vindicators have to chase down each individual Rook and run it down before time runs out. Vindicator taking damage, they're just going to have to slowly chip away at these Vindicator tanks. They'll likely take down at least 2 before the end of the match, possibly all 3. But with HUN Reloaded winning, or I'm going to say calling at this point, with HUN Reloaded winning, they will be 3-0 in the group, and Nulli Secunda will be 2-1, putting Nulli Secunda and HUN Reloaded into the elimination stages.
Yep, that steals the group if that happens. So that's most likely going to be the case, and we'll see Broadsword Team Nulli continue to push their way through this tournament.
Will we see Broadswords in the finals? Who knows?
It's possible. It's the strongest setup we've seen so far.
I know, right?
But first Vindy half armor now, it really is going to be very difficult for these guys to get a lock at this point. On the Vindies, you were right. The other Rooks should be kind of getting out of there, and they're all sticking together for some reason, but they're not really in any risk.
I don't think they really care at this point.
No, they don't. They're actually GFing in local already. So.
Now, Nulli Secunda, who are actually making it through, I hear, are they your favorite team with their Broadsword skill 2?
No, they're not my favorite team, but I like defending them against all of the haters earlier when they brought the Broadswords.
Another interesting thing, HUN Reloaded choosing not to bring their Vargers, switching it up.
You know, that is actually an interesting meta decision. We were talking about over Ice Cream earlier, how we thought it was almost a guarantee that HUN would bring their Vargers because they weren't under as much pressure as other teams to bring something that's as competitive as possible, and they haven't this expectation developed to bring Vargers, and it seemed like the most normal decision to just continue that. They don't have much to lose if someone counters it, and they do have something to lose by bringing anything else, basically, by showing anything else decent.
Showing a team that they've practiced and worked on, and obviously planned out.
But they brought the ECM, which I don't know if does that seem like a good counter to the Varger counter?
I feel like the ECM is going to make people prepare for it. It forces you to know that they have this team, that you must dump some module slots into ECCM, which if they then bring Vargers again, will be completely useless. So it's sort of like these are very sort of either end of the spectrum teams. Like you have this super Marauder battleship heavy team, and then you have this all E-War team. And it makes you prepare for both because they obviously can run both very well. They have thought out, and we have another Vindicator died just in case you missed it. Just thought I'd let you know. It gives these very 2 other opposite end of the spectrums that you must prepare for this one and this one because you know it's a flip of the coin what they bring.
I mean, I don't even aside from the way, I don't know if I necessarily agree that ECM polarizes with Vargers perfectly and that they're total opposites.
They're not the total opposite, but they're both unique.
Well, and the important thing is that ECM particularly is this thing that you kind of have to account for, and we've seen in this tournament especially a meta that isn't very full of, there's not much ECM. There just hasn't been a lot of it. And so having the threat there, being a team that's shown ECM and won with it, definitely makes teams coming up against you in the future have to keep that in mind and have to keep their setups honest against ECM, which I totally agree with you is a great decision going forward. It has a good chance of weakening their teams in the future against any other setup they bring, regardless of how polarized it is. If it's anything but ECM, it helps for other teams to have to account for ECM. So
it also shows that they do have some. Oh well, never mind. I'll tell you that tomorrow when we see this. But when the last Vindicator going down, that's going to be the end of the match. HUN Reloaded and Nulli Secunda making it through to the elimination stages. Blah. I'm going to throw it back to Soundwave in the studio so I can pronounce words.